Hello, and welcome to this edition of What is Jessica Reading Now? Um, I am Jessica. Hi. I am a library clerk here at the Maston Public Library. Also, quite the bibliophile when it comes to reading in general, but particularly fantasy and also YA fiction, otherwise known as young adult fiction, which can pretty much range anywhere from 15, 16 upwards to as long as you enjoy it. Um, so I'm here today to give you a couple of recommendations on some books that I have personally read and books that are located here at the Macedon Public Library. So I'll give you a little rundown. They'll be spoiler free, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm going to start with the most recent book I completed, which is called Cloaked by Alex Flynn. Alex Flynn is also the author of a fairly well-known book called Beastly, which you might have recalled was turned into a movie just a few years ago. I believe Vanessa Hudgens was in it. Um, I tried to read that one. I didn't get very far. I didn't really like the format. It kept going off into this kind of chat room format, and I wasn't too keen on that. But before I tried that one, I read this one, Cloaked, and I actually really enjoyed it. Um, it's really just a fun read. It is a mixture of uh, some of the lesser known fairy tales. So you get a lot of retellings of fairy tales that are kind of like the big ones that everybody knows, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, things like that. This one's a mixture of some of the lesser known ones, like the Shoemaker and the Elves, the Brave Tailor, the Six Swans. Um, and the author does a really good job of mixing together these various fairy tales in a way that's a lot of fun. It's a very light read. It's not too heavy. It's not too weighty to get into. The main character, Johnny, is a young man who works at a shoe repair for his mother in a fancy hotel. And when a princess comes to stay with them, and it is a modern um, story, so it is modern day, when a visiting royal from another country comes to stay at the hotel, he is rather surprised when she asks him to help her save her brother who has been turned into a frog. Um, and of course, at first he thinks she's a little off her rocker, but the promise of the monetary reward and the chance to marry a princess if he succeeds is enough for him to take a little bit of a leap of faith. And when she gives him a magic cloak that can take him anywhere that he wants to go, he starts to fall into this world of realizing that there's magic all around that we just don't normally see. So it was quite a fun and enjoyable read. It was really quick. It only took me, I think, 2 days to get through. And it was, um, like I said, just a light read, nothing too heavy, and it was easy to get through. And I definitely recommend it to anyone who wants to just have some fun with some fairy tales and doesn't want to dig too far down, doesn't want to get weighed down with too much stuff, but just wants to have a good time. So I definitely recommend Cloaked by Alex Flynn. Beastly was one also by Alex Flynn, which we also have here. It just wasn't for me. I did like the take on it. It was a modern day retelling of Beauty and the Beast. So instead of a prince, he is a rich kid that goes to a private school. His dad is, I believe, a news anchor, or so his dad has money. And when a new student shows up, a sort of gothic chick who's not quite his type, he asks her out to the school dance as a means to humiliate her. And she is the enchantress who then teaches him a lesson by turning him into a beastly figure. So it was very interesting to see it taken in literal modern day. His dad is taking him to like plastic surgeons to see if they can, fix him and whatnot. But it kept going off into these like chat room formats, and it just didn't really grab me. Although it might be something that works for somebody else. So If you want a modern day retelling of Beauty and the Beast, I would also recommend you check out Beastly by Alex Flynn as well. The next book I would recommend, which I feel like is perfect for this time of year for fall, is The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. Holly Black is a fairly well-known author, YA author. She has a couple more even better known books than this, which of course I'm blanking on the title right now. I want to say The Hazel Prince maybe is hers, but in this one, or maybe I'm thinking Hazel because that's the name of the main character. But I like this one particularly for this time of year because it has that very fall feel to it. It has a very sort of dark, atmospheric forest setting. The protagonist is a girl named Hazel who has a twin brother named Ben. They have grown up in this town where the townspeople aren't really openly acknowledging the fact that some strange things go on and that there's some strange things in the woods. But everyone knows that there is a horned boy in a glass coffin in the woods that has been sleeping for many, many years. And one day, the coffin is discovered to be shattered and the boy is gone. So what ensues from there is a very interesting tale of, you know, the things that can creep in the woods, fairies, the not nice kind, not the granting wishes kind. What happens when you maybe enter into a deal that you aren't entirely prepared to uphold your end, or when you thought you were maybe a little more clever than you were, and now you have to pay the price. So it was a good, it was also a fairly quick read. I think it took me like 3 days. It was very, very catching. It really caught your attention. I really liked the characters. I really liked the way the author handled a lot of situations, including some almost ambiguous situations or some relationships that weren't what you saw it at first, and she kind of wove them all together in a great way, as also keeping that sort of through line of those sort of old world fairy tales, and where it is known to beware the fair folk sort of situation. So so again, a great read. Particularly, I think for this time of year, I always want to kind of sit down with a book that has that sort of almost spooky atmospheric forest setting. So I definitely recommend that one by Holly Black. We also have a few more for other books that I know I haven't read yet. Maybe The Cruel Prince is what I'm thinking of. I haven't read her other works yet. I do have one of hers on my shelf at home that I need to get to first, but this one we have here at the Macedon Public Library. The last one that I read that I also thought would be a good recommendation for this time of year is a compilation of short stories called Enthralled, Paranormal Diversions. On the cover here, it lists Rachel Kane, Claudia Gray, Carrie Ryan, Cami Garcia, and Margaret Stoll. The editors of this are some fairly well-known authors, Melissa Marr and Kelly Armstrong. What caught my attention is that I read Kelly Armstrong's Bitten series. I liked the books much better than I liked the TV series, but they did come out with a TV series that didn't really quite follow the same plot line. But this is a collection of short stories. You know, some are longer than others. All have that same paranormal feel to them, as is obviously the theme of the book. So what I like about collections of short stories is that, you know, sometimes I'm just in the mood for a really quick read. Or sometimes I'm in the mood for something where I don't get the whole story. I actually like that sometimes, where sometimes you get the characters and you get a piece of the story. And then you can kind of let your imagination go off on maybe what happened. I kind of like that sometimes, where these every now and then you get these short stories that stop sort of in medias res. They sort of stop in the middle, and you're left to think like, oh no, what happened? And sometimes it's better not to know, or sometimes it's more fun. But so this is definitely another collection that I would recommend. We also have a few other short story collections that have to do with uh, fairies or what's the other one? Of course, I'm blanking now, but we have a few of these in the YA section, these collections of short stories that are edited by these well-known authors. And they're a lot of fun because sometimes you can also, if you're not digging one story, you can just switch to another one. So I definitely recommend that one as well. Currently, I am actually just started reading a book yesterday that I am already deeply into. Unfortunately, it's not one that we have here at Macedon, but it is in the OWWL system, called Winter Song. I should have brought it to show it to you guys, but it is a retake of the Goblin King. So far, there is a girl named Liesel who has a younger sister, Kath, and a younger brother, Yosef. And Liesel's sort of the no nonsense, responsible one. She's not the pretty one like her sister. She's not the music virtuoso that her brother is. She sort of gets lost in between, and she's the oldest, and so she is mostly tasked with taking care of her siblings, even though at this point she is 19 and her sister is 17, and I don't think they've said how old her brother is, but I think you're supposed to assume he's either 16 or 15 or somewhere in that. And so far her sister has gotten herself into a bit of trouble with the goblin men at the market, which there is a fantastic poem, and of course the author escapes me, but if you want a poem for this time of year that's quite an epic long poem, look up The Goblin Market. It's one of my favorite poems, and they reference it in the book. And so now Liesel has to save her sister from a somewhat ambiguous fate, and from being taken underground to the Goblin King. And as someone who personally loves the movie Labyrinth, it's shaping up to be quite a good read. So so that one too, that one is in the OWL system. We don't have that one here at Macedon. I actually picked it up at Victor, but we do have several more copies in the OWL system. So if you're looking for some good reads, particularly around this fall, around as we're getting towards October and Halloween, if you want some sort of moody, atmospheric reads, I would definitely recommend Enthralled, Paranormal Diversions, which is a collection of short stories. The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black, which is a great atmospheric tale about dark fairies and the trouble humans can get into when they make deals with them. And if you want something a little lighter but still fun, still has that fairy tale feel, I would recommend Cloaked by Alex Flynn. So that are my recommendations for this week, for this month. Hopefully we're going to do some more of these. And they won't always be fairy tales. That just happened to be what I was in the mood for lately, so that happened to be what I read. We'll get into some other things as well. But I hope you guys are having a happy and healthy, safe time. And hopefully you'll join me next time when we have another edition of What's Jessica Reading, because even I don't know. So we'll see what comes up next time. Have a great day.